I'm going to talk about why difficult emotions are actually the key to our happiness, to experiencing our lives in a state of freedom and bliss. As you can tell, that's very different than the way that we typically relate to them. So, a difficult emotion arises, say it's anger or fear or anxiety or sadness or whatever intense emotion it is. What we typically do is we run, we numb out, we eat our feelings, we drink, we watch Netflix, we exercise, we try to escape the feeling. And the reason that we do this is because difficult emotions disconnect us from others. It disconnects us from others and it disconnects us from ourselves. And that state of disconnection is a very difficult place to be in. So that's what we normally do. We run, we numb, we suppress, we don't want to feel it. It's like our ego only ever wants to feel groovy all the time, and it should never feel anything besides that. So difficult emotions are a problem. And that makes it a bigger problem because say you have anxiety or sadness, then all of a sudden you have anxiety or sadness about the fact that you have anxiety or sadness. And you go on a very rapid death spiral into making these into big problems. So that's the way we typically address them without being trained in how to use them as gifts for our own healing. So the first thing I want to do is share a new context. If we're not doing that, it's because, actually, let me just pause and share one more thing, which is that the reason these things are coming up is because they want to be healed. They want to, our soul wants to heal. We want to come to a state of being whole and complete and at peace with all of ourselves and all of the parts of ourselves and all of our traumas and woundings and everything we've dealt with in our lives. So that's important to see that this is a very natural process that wants to occur spontaneously. So the new context is, wow, this is a great thing. I'm so excited and happy that I'm dealing with a difficult emotion right now. And the reason for that is that it shows us exactly where those wounds are. Because without difficult emotions, we have no way of knowing where the wounds are. We have no way of locating where these traumas or childhood wounds are without difficult emotions that pop up and point to them, and they're like, hey, look here, hey, you, look here. But if we're numbing out, we don't actually ever listen and use them as the gift that they are to show us, like, oh wow, there's the spot where I need to do some healing. So the first thing to do when difficult emotions arises is celebrate. Just say, thank my lucky stars, I have an explosion of anger right now. Isn't that so great? Now I can use this emotion to actually heal myself. So the first thing we do after celebrating is to create lots of loving space for it to arise. So instead of numbing out, instead of running and fleeing the scene, it's like allow yourself to become a big enough container that the emotion can fully arise. So if it's anger or grief or sadness, let the whole thing come up. Just make yourself big enough to handle it. And the reason we don't do this is that we're so afraid it's going to overtake us. We're afraid it's going to overwhelm us. We have this fear like we'll never recover from a difficult emotion if we step into it. But the reality is the complete opposite. Because when you do what I'm telling you to do, on the other side of this emotion, very quickly you experience profound peace and freedom and love and connection with yourself and others because you actually do the healing work. And then guess what? It doesn't have to keep coming up over and over and over again. But then you get to the next one. So that's the first piece, creating a huge space for it to fully arise. Next, allow it to show you where the wound is. And the simplest way that I have found to do this is to actually do like a inner child visualization meditation. And the reason is that a lot of these wounds occur between the age of 3 to 7 years old. Not always, but most of them. And so what I do is just close my eyes and visualize it could be 3-year-old self. I usually ask, I'm like, how old is this emotion? Or you can just kind of intuit it. Maybe I'm 3 years old. And I just hold myself on my lap and I have a loving conversation. And I say, it's okay to feel afraid right now. I understand that you're afraid. That's okay. I feel afraid sometimes too. And essentially what I do is just have a conversation to find out what is the reaction to. Because it's never what's in front of my face in my life as a 35-year-old adult. It's some imaginary threat from when I was 3 that I'm reacting to, like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble, and I have this massive activation and fear and anger response. So when I can talk to myself and just see, okay, oh, so you feel like you're going to get in trouble right now. That's okay. Maybe you're not, because you're actually a 35-year-old adult. I mean, I say this in a loving way, but you get the idea. So through this process, what happens is that inner child who's freaking out, who's like crying and shaking with fear or whatever, gets calmed through my love and through my creating a safe space for the emotions to arise, and then it gets healed. And then the next time it arises, it's not as intense. It's like it goes from, a 5-alarm fire to a small whisper, and then eventually you can get to a place in your healing where it actually doesn't arise at all. So I just wanted to share this. This is module 6 of the Freedom and Bliss course, is where I teach how to do this in a deeper level. And I wanted to share this because we have a Freedom and Bliss course that's kicking off August 1st, so about 2 weeks. And if this is something that resonates with you, if you feel like you're ready to do some of this deep inner healing work and work through this stuff, the intense emotions that are arising, then I want you to either send me a message, or you can just put time on my calendar on the website, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what you want to accomplish and see if it makes sense for you to do this upcoming course. It's a 12-week program. We do the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. So this is the first module in the emotional body portion, where we go and do this kind of deep inner healing work. Because, it has to be healed. It's going to keep coming up over and over. So I think it's better to just kind of get ahead of it and have the tools to become a self-healing oven, like a self-cleaning oven. We can become self-healing ovens, so that each difficult emotion that arises, we become more and more healed. And then as if we go through life this way, we can actually come to a state of being whole and complete. So that's it. I could probably talk forever, but I'm teaching meditation in 2 minutes, so I'm going to let you go.